You ask a simple question, and then you just sit there. You stare blankly at the screen.
Yeah, it's an incredibly frustrating experience.
1 second passes, then 2, then 5.
By the time it finally answers, your thought is completely gone.
Right, your creative momentum just completely dies in that silent gap.
It really is a momentum killer for anyone trying to work quickly.
Well, welcome to today's deep dive. We're exploring a major shift in artificial intelligence today.
We are looking really closely at Google Gemini 3.1 Flash.
Our exact mission today is to explore a specific technical breakthrough. We want to understand how this model completely eliminates that awkward pause.
Yeah, and we have a really exciting roadmap planned out for you.
We're going to unpack how it processes complex information instantly.
It handles text, voice, images, and video in real time.
We will also explore how its vision solves physical world problems.
Plus, we'll show you something truly wild later on. You can build a custom voice assistant without a single line of code.
It represents a completely different way to interact with machines.
It feels so much more like a collaboration than a simple query.
So let's start by looking deeply at the underlying problem of latency.
Latency is basically that frustrating gap between speaking and getting an answer.
I always felt like older AI models were basically clunky walkie-talkies.
You push a button, you speak your piece, and you wait.
Yeah, you're just waiting for the digital static to finally clear.
Right, and it completely ruins the natural flow of human conversation. The rhythm is entirely broken.
But Gemini 3.1 Flash feels like a seamless phone call.
The back and forth flows much more smoothly and naturally.
The core design goal was dramatically reducing that exact latency gap.
It strikes a beautiful balance between speed and raw reasoning capability.
It's very light, very quick, and still remarkably capable.
It stops feeling like you are querying a sterile, distant database.
It actually starts feeling like you are talking to someone in the room.
Let's look at the impartial data from the recent benchmark testing.
Right, we have the big bench audio benchmark from artificial analysis.
Gemini 3.1 Flash Live scored 95.9% on speech reasoning.
That is a very impressive number for this specific logic test.
It places it just behind StepAudio.Our 1.1 in the overall rankings.
But it leaves other major models well behind it in the dust.
Yeah, GPT Real-Time scored a much lower 83.3% on this benchmark.
And the older Gemini 2.5 Flash native audio hit 90.7%.
To put that in perspective, the leap in accuracy is highly significant.
It means the model makes far fewer logical errors when listening.
Speed is great, but it also handles complex external tasks beautifully.
It fully supports something called function calling mid-conversation.
And for those newer to the space, we should clarify that term.
Function calling means the AI safely uses outside tools to do tasks for you.
It might check your calendar, or it might search the web directly to find live information.
Doing that quickly usually breaks the memory of an AI system.
But its memory is significantly better than previous software versions.
The complex FunkBench audio test absolutely proves this massive architectural improvement.
It scored a very impressive 90.8% accuracy on function calling.
The older Gemini 2.5 versions were way behind that specific mark.
Right, they only scored 71.5% and 66.0% on the exact same test.
That is the difference between a novelty and a reliable tool.
You actually need that high accuracy to trust the system entirely.
Exactly. It handles complex tools without losing the thread of the conversation.
So we have to look at how that impacts long chats.
But does moving that fast mean it forgets what we just said?
No. Upgraded memory keeps your entire long conversation perfectly on track.
That brings us to a really fascinating philosophical and technical hurdle.
We really need to talk about the messy reality of human speech.
Human communication is incredibly chaotic when you actually analyze the audio.
We simply do not speak in perfectly formed, complete sentences.
We hesitate, we pause, we leave half-finished thoughts dangling in the air constantly.
Older models dealt with this by using a very rigid pipeline.
They usually just read a sterile text transcript of your voice.
The system translated your audio into text before the brain saw it.
And in that translation process, you lose so much vital context.
They completely missed the subtle nuance of human communication.
A sigh becomes nothing. A long pause is just deleted entirely.
But Gemini 3.1 Flash actually processes the raw audio natively.
It doesn't need a text transcript to understand what you're saying.
It analyzes the actual sound waves in real time.
It hears the specific tone and feeling behind your spoken words.
It knows when you are actually done talking to it.
It also knows when you are just pausing to think. beat.
That makes the exchange feel far less robotic and much more intuitive.
It essentially reads the room and responds to your emotional state.
If you sound frustrated or confused, it picks up on that instantly.
That is a massive leap forward for user experience.
So how does the model actually alter its response based on emotion?
The response becomes much more patient, encouraging, and grounded in reality.
It slows down slightly to make sure you're following along.
And if you sound very confident and want to move fast,
It simply speeds right up to match your exact energy level.
this tonal awareness unlocks some truly amazing real-world use cases.
Think about practicing a completely new language in real time,
You need that immediate feedback without awkward pauses breaking your mental flow.
or getting step-by-step cooking guidance while your hands are deeply busy.
You can just talk to it while covered in flour and oil.
You can ask quick, complex questions while driving without losing visual focus.
Brainstorming ideas out loud without waiting is incredibly powerful for creatives.
It feels like having a really smart passenger sitting right next to you.
It allows you to process your thoughts verbally, which is how many humans think best.
I know this shift can feel a bit weird at first.
Well, I still feel a bit silly talking out loud to my computer.
Yeah, it feels slightly unnatural to perform my thoughts for a machine.
That is completely normal when trying this entirely new interface paradigm,
It might feel a bit strange during the very first attempt.
but that initial friction vanishes very quickly with regular daily use.
It definitely becomes second nature after a while.
Can this actually help me design or code just by talking?
Yes, vibe coding lets you brainstorm and shape ideas purely out loud.
Hearing perfectly is definitely a huge step forward for artificial intelligence.
But true, seamless collaboration requires seeing what the human user is seeing.
This is where things get really futuristic and deeply impressive technically.
Let's talk about screen sharing inside the Google AI Studio environment.
The source material provides a brilliant practical example of this feature.
A user shared a live Google Search Console SEO report directly.
It was just a massive screen filled with raw, complex keyword data.
For a human, scanning that wall of text takes significant time.
The AI intelligently analyzed that complex data in real time instantly.
It didn't just blindly read the raw numbers out loud like a screen reader.
It actually synthesized the information and looked for broader strategic patterns.
Right, and it noticed a large surplus of branded search keywords.
But it also saw a glaring lack of how-to keywords in the data.
That is a very high-level strategic observation for a machine to make. 2-sec silence.
It interpreted the underlying marketing strategy and offered a smart recommendation.
It acted more like a senior consultant than a simple data processor.
And it gets even more fascinating when you activate vision mode.
You can point your webcam at the messy physical world directly.
The user turned on the camera and simply waved a hand.
The AI identified the waving hand perfectly without any hesitation or lag.
They held up a pen and asked for the exact color.
The AI got the color right on every single rapid attempt.
It is actively watching the live video feed like a dedicated collaborator.
Whoa. Imagine an AI instantly guiding your hands through a complex motherboard assembly.
That is a wildly powerful image to consider for a moment.
It completely changes how we might troubleshoot difficult hardware issues forever.
You just show the broken physical component directly to the camera lens.
You can get instant assembly instructions by pointing at a confusing product.
You can identify an unknown plant on a hike or a weird ingredient.
You can walk through an empty room and get layout feedback instantly.
It bridges the gap between the digital realm and physical reality.
But we must honestly report the limitations of this specific technology today.
It is not entirely perfect in every single complex scenario yet.
That's true. Screen sharing, while using voice simultaneously, can cause some multitasking lag.
The system is processing an enormous amount of data all at once.
Sometimes the voice might cut out or take slightly longer to reply.
It definitely works best when you do one specific thing at a time.
Vision mode also gets confused if you move objects too quickly.
The camera needs a moment to focus clearly on the subject.
You have to move things slowly and deliberately for the highest accuracy.
Is it safe to let the AI watch my live stream?
Hide your passwords and bank details to actively protect your privacy.
Let's take a very brief pause right here.
Sponsor.
Okay. We know how powerful its digital and physical senses are now.
It can hear tone, and it can see the real world accurately.
How do we actually mold it to our specific daily needs?
And what does it actually cost to use this technology regularly?
Building a custom voice app is surprisingly easy to do today.
Inside Google AI Studio, there is a dedicated build section available.
You can create an entire complex app using just plain English instructions.
You do not need to write a single line of traditional code.
You just describe exactly what you want the assistant to do.
The source provides a very specific and interesting prompt example for us.
You tell the system to be a strict but encouraging language coach.
You give it very specific behavioral guidelines to follow during the chat.
You instruct it to correct your grammar out loud immediately when speaking.
You tell it to ask follow-up questions to keep the conversation flowing smoothly.
Once it is live, it stays perfectly locked in that specific character.
It does not randomly break character and sound like a generic robot again.
It's kind of like stacking Lego blocks of data and behavioral instructions together.
You can tweak the personality until it feels exactly right for you.
Getting it absolutely perfect usually takes 2 or 3 quick, iterative adjustments.
Let's dive into some of the advanced settings available in the studio.
There is a very cool thinking level toggle you can easily use.
You can set this specific parameter to low, medium, or high.
Low thinking provides extremely fast, instantaneous replies for simple, casual daily chats.
High thinking means the model takes a bit more time to process.
It uses that extra computational time to be highly accurate and logical.
You use this advanced setting for complex math or deep coding help.
You can also toggle on Google Search as a live tool.
This means the AI is never stuck in the past with outdated data.
It pulls real-time information from the web to answer complex news questions.
Let's clearly discuss the global availability and the specific pricing structure now.
You can use Gemini Live on your mobile phone starting today.
Search Live is currently available in over 200 different global countries.
Testing everything inside Google AI Studio is completely free right now.
It's a fantastic sandbox for experimentation and learning the ropes.
But once you publish to Google Cloud, standard API costs begin immediately.
The back-end pricing is entirely based on your total token usage.
Let's define that technical term for our listeners right now.
Tokens are tiny chunks of words the AI uses to read and write.
For the flashlight model, the pricing is very straightforward and affordable.
It is 25 cents for input per million tokens used.
It is $1.50 for output per million tokens generated.
The standard Flash model has a slightly higher overall cost structure.
It runs at 50 cents for input per million tokens used.
And it costs $3 for output per million tokens generated.
If real-time conversational speed is not strictly required, there is another option.
Batch pricing is exactly half the cost of those standard API rates.
What happens if my custom app gets unexpectedly popular and expensive?
Set a Google Cloud spending cap so you absolutely never overpay.
We have covered a massive amount of technical ground today together.
We looked at latency, tonal awareness, vision capabilities, and custom voice apps.
Let's summarize the core big idea for you to take away.
Google Gemini 3.1 Flash is not just a simple processing upgrade.
It's not just doing the exact same old things slightly faster.
It is a fundamental shift in the entire daily user experience.
It transforms AI from a sterile, distant database that you simply query.
It becomes a highly responsive, emotionally aware virtual collaborator in your life.
It works at the actual natural speed of human thought now.
That profound lack of friction changes how you approach complex problems entirely.
It removes the barrier between having an idea and executing that idea.
We strongly encourage you to try it out for yourself today.
You do not need to be an AI expert to start experimenting safely.
Just go to Google AI Studio and turn on talk mode immediately.
Ask it a simple question and experience the incredible speed firsthand.
Start with small, manageable tasks and let the tool grow with you.
It takes time to build the muscle memory for this new interface.
Before we go, I want to leave you with a lingering thought. 2-sec silence.
If AI can perfectly mimic the rhythm, tone, and empathy of human conversation without skipping a single beat,
What happens when we start preferring its company over actual people for our day-to-day brainstorming?
that is a deeply fascinating and complex question to chew on.
Thank you for joining us on today's deep dive. Out to Euro Music.